Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled deep within a dense, mystical forest, there lived a humble woodcutter named Thomas. Thomas was known throughout the village for his kind heart and gentle spirit. He spent his days chopping wood and caring for his elderly mother, Mary, who had been bedridden for years. Thomas and Mary lived in a cozy cottage on the outskirts of the village. Their life was simple but filled with love. Thomas would wake up early every morning, kiss his mother's forehead, and head into the forest with his axe, ready to gather wood for the villagers. One sunny morning, as Thomas was deep in the forest, he heard a soft, melodic humming. Curious, he followed the sound, which led him to a small glen. There, beneath a towering oak tree, he discovered a fairy named Alara. She had sparkling wings and wore a dress made of delicate petals. "Who are you?" Thomas asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "I am Alara, a forest fairy," she replied with a smile. "I have watched you from afar and seen the kindness in your heart. I have a gift for you." Alara waved her tiny hand, and suddenly, Thomas's old, worn axe transformed into a shining, magical axe with a blade that never dulled. Thomas couldn't believe his eyes. He thanked Alara and promised to use the axe wisely. Over the years, Thomas's wood became renowned throughout the village for its remarkable quality. People marveled at how fast he could chop and how smooth the wood was. His newfound prosperity allowed him to take even better care of his mother. One day, a royal messenger arrived in the village, searching for the finest wood to be used in building a grand palace. The king had heard tales of Thomas's exceptional wood, and the villagers immediately directed the messenger to the woodcutter's cottage. Upon seeing the wood and the magical axe, the messenger was astounded. He offered Thomas a generous sum of gold and an invitation to the royal palace. Thomas accepted the offer, but with one condition. He asked if he could bring his elderly mother along. The messenger agreed, and together, they set off on a journey to the grand palace. Upon arriving at the palace, Thomas and Mary were greeted with opulence and grandeur. The king was a kind and wise ruler who immediately took a liking to the humble woodcutter and his frail mother. They were given a beautiful room in the palace and treated like honored guests. As the days passed, Thomas continued to provide wood for the palace, and Mary enjoyed the company of the palace staff. The palace was a lively place, filled with laughter, music, and dancing. One evening, as Thomas was wandering the palace gardens, he stumbled upon a garden in the deepest corner. There, he found a young woman, Princess Isabella, with tears in her eyes. She looked sad and lonely. Thomas approached her and asked, "Why are you so upset, dear princess?" Isabella looked at Thomas and replied, "I am trapped in this palace, surrounded by wealth and luxury, but I have no true friends. I long for the simple joys of life and the company of someone who cares for me, not my title." Thomas felt a deep connection with the princess. He shared his own humble background and how he had always cared for his mother, Mary. Isabella was touched by his sincerity and kindness. From that day on, Thomas and Isabella spent their days together. They laughed, talked, and shared their dreams. Isabella showed Thomas the wonders of the palace, and he introduced her to the beauty of the forest. They became the best of friends. One evening, as Thomas and Isabella were watching the sunset in the palace garden, the king approached them. He had noticed the happiness in his daughter's eyes and was grateful to Thomas for bringing joy into her life. The king appreciated Thomas's kindness and friendship. He asked Thomas for his blessing to marry Princess Isabella. Thomas agreed, but he had one request. He asked for the kingdom to grant a day of kindness, where all the villagers would be welcome to the palace to share in the royal family's prosperity and enjoy a day of feasting and celebration. The king gladly agreed, and preparations were made for the grand celebration. Thomas's mother, Mary, was overjoyed at the news of her son's engagement to the princess. She couldn't believe her son's good fortune and the kindness he had shown to Isabella. The day of kindness arrived, and the village was filled with excitement. People from all walks of life, young and old, joined the festivities at the royal palace. There was music, dancing, and an endless banquet of delicious food. The villagers were overwhelmed by the generosity of the royal family. As the sun set on that magical day, Thomas and Isabella were married in a beautiful ceremony. The villagers, the royal family, and the forest fairies all celebrated their love. The king declared a new tradition of kindness, where once a year, the village and the palace would come together to share their wealth, laughter, and love. Thomas and Isabella lived a long and happy life together, ruling the kingdom with wisdom and kindness. Their love story became a legend, inspiring generations to come to be kind and to cherish the simple joys of life. And so, in the heart of the mystical forest, in a kingdom of kindness and love, they all lived happily ever after.